Have you ever thought that leading people is kind of like a magic trick? Well, it is. I've been around the performing arts for most of my life, and over the years I've always had a real respect and fascination with the craft of performing magic. Now, to be a good magician, you need a few things. First is the trick, or the illusion as magicians call it these days. Now, when you think about it, the trick is intellectual. It's knowing the basic mechanism of performing something that seems impossible. And let's face it, this is what most people focus on. They see a magician, the first thing they ask is, how is that trick done? But there's more to it than that. The second and real crucial thing is the execution. So can you physically perform that illusion to be flawless and not arouse suspicion from the audience? It's easy to know how an illusion is done, but actually very different and more difficult to actually execute it. So I know the secret to a lot of magic tricks, but if I went on stage and tried to perform them, I'd be terrible because I haven't put any time or effort into learning how to actually execute those ideas. And you know what? This applies to a lot of poor performing leaders. For many of them, if you give them a hypothetical situation, they will tell you the right things to do. They know the trick. But when the time comes to actually execute, when they're in a position where they're under pressure, do they actually do the stuff they know? Often no, right? They go off script, they become emotional. And that's because they're human beings with nervous systems. And when we get wound up and surprised, sometimes we don't do what we know is right. So here's an example. You may know you shouldn't get frustrated or angry when you're having a conversation or an argument, but knowing that only does so much good because your emotions will often take over, right? So if this is you, here's what I want you to know. You're not necessarily a bad manager or a leader, but what you have to do is find better ways to control your nervous system. Now that could involve meditation, it could involve going to therapy, it could involve coaching, it could involve any number of things depending on what your particular challenge is. But here's another thing that you all have to consider in addition to that, and that's this. You need to continue to embrace these challenging human situations. The more you're used to dealing with professional conflict, things like differences of opinion or giving difficult feedback, the more comfortable you're going to be with it, and likely the better you're going to be at it. So my leadership skills have been built on a lot of mistakes. Mistakes that were awkward, mistakes that were embarrassing, that mistakes even looking back sometimes make me feel like I've got a rock at the pit of my stomach. But you know what? That's being human. And learning from those mistakes is what is going to make you a fantastic people leader.